Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, featuring today's top directors sharing behind-the-scenes stories of their latest films and insights into the craft of directing. Please take a second to subscribe to our podcasts on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Julian Schnabel's new biographical drama, At Eternity's Gate. Set during the time Vincent van Gogh lived in Arles and Auvers-sur-Oise, France, the film is a journey inside the world and mind of the tortured artist, who despite skepticism, ridicule, and illness, created some of the world's most beloved and stunning works. In addition to At Eternity's Gate, Mr. Schnabel's credits include the feature films Miral, Before Night Falls, Basquiat, and the documentary feature Berlin. He was nominated for both the DGA Award and the Academy Award for his 2008 feature, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Mr. Schnabel spoke with director Lee Daniels about filming At Eternity's Gate. During their conversation, Mr. Schnabel discusses putting the audience in the perspective of Van Gogh, working with an editor whose main background was in architecture, and why this may be his last film.
Hi, everybody.
We have matching patent leather shoes.
Tell them why.
There was the gala over at the LACMA. So.
And he kept his he took his tux off in the car here. So I look like the fool.
To tell you that.
The last time we were here together, you interviewed me for The Butler.
I think we did that in New York.
Was it?
I think so. But same movie, same people, just different state. It's all right. Thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you for coming out. So Julian Schnabel is my hero, and he's one of the reasons why I do what I do. And I guess I'm going to just start with first, why? Why this film? Why?
Well, I didn't want to make a movie about Van Gogh because everybody thinks they know everything about him. So it seemed absurd to do it. But I don't know a whole lot about other things, but I know quite a bit about painting. And that's what I am. I'm a painter. And I think there's an inevitability about his work. And I think he's still waiting for his audience. But they keep coming. Anyway, so I think that, and maybe it was a reason why I didn't want to do it in the first place, but later I think the fact that most people think they have a relationship with this painter, why? It's good to try to answer that. And I think ultimately I got a chance to say things about painting that I wanted to say, and about being an artist and just about making anything. It wasn't necessarily just about painting, but maybe that was a way to talk about what it's like to be alive.
When I walked away with the feeling of like, wow, critics, because they dogged him, and as an artist, you get dogged, you open yourself up to complete vulnerability, and I ended up leaving this film with the feeling of what defines art. Who defines that? A critic from the New York Times, who defines what defines art? And I was just wondering if you had anything to share on that.
Well, I think
is that one of the reasons why you did the film?
I think that art is a practice that nobody asked you to make. I don't think people do it for the money, or for the fame. When you're young, you want agreement from other people. Maybe you want agreement from other people just for being alive, and you don't really know how to get it, so you do different things to get people's attention. But ultimately, the more you work, I think when Vincent says to Dr. Gaget, I thought that an artist was supposed to teach something about life, and then I stopped thinking that. Now I just think about my relationship with eternity. And I think the more you do it, the more you realize that the process of doing it is really what the thing is. And the notion that Van Gogh wasn't successful is absurd, I would say, since first of all, and I guess there's that moment where Willem is sitting in that vegetable field and he pours dirt on his face and he starts smiling, and I would say that, to me, it looks like that guy was exactly in the right place at the right time, and I don't know how many people actually feel like that in a lifetime. And the work that he made was his companion, was his covenant, and it was his. He had the dialogue with himself. It's a luxury when you can have a dialogue with other people, and I think that that's what he loved so much about Gauguin, that he had respect for him. And
I love that. I love that you showed that. I felt like when I was watching the movie, I was watching Van Gogh paint. Is how you directed it, how you shot. Who shot it?
Benoit Delhomme shot the movie, and I think he did a great job. And I guess there's a bunch of directors in this room, and I can say to you that he never said once to me, I can't do it. And that's extraordinary. And there was no...
And he asked for a lot, this one.
We devised ways of doing things. Louise Kugelberg is in the audience. She wrote the script with Jean-Claude Carrier and I, and also edited the film. I did it with her, but she did it. You want to stand up for one second?
Stand up, Louise.
So obviously we all know that editing is writing, and Benoit, Willem, Louise, and I all became the same person at some moment. And what was your question? I'm sorry, Lee.
Where'd you shoot it?
Okay. So we were in Arles, and we
Where's
shot.
that?
Arles is in the south of France, and that's
Okay.
where Van Gogh lived from 1888 until he moved to Auvers-sur-Oise, where he died. And so this took place more or less in the last 2 years of his life. Gauguin came down and visit him. His brother paid for Gauguin to go down there and keep him company, but Gauguin wanted to do it. And one thing that was, but when we arrived, for example, there was no wheat in the south of France, so we sent Benoit to Scotland, asked him to shoot his feet.
Okay, so how much was your budget for this?
Budget was $10 million, and we probably had to spend $2 million on lawyers' fees for some ridiculous fucking reason. I mean, it really was hobbled together in a way, and at a certain moment also, we lost $350,000 from one of the investors. They said, well, can you shoot 7-hour days? I said, yeah, I can. And in fact, every day at about 5:30, it was magic hour in Arles. And so Louise and I would actually keep inventing scenes to shoot. And so many of the things that are in the movie were done spontaneously. And Willem was up for it, and so was Oscar.
He's so good. He's so good. He's so good in the film. You shot now a couple of movies out of the country. What's different between those crews and these crews here? You're American.
Yeah, supposedly. I mean, my father's from Czechoslovakia. My mother was born in New York, but she's from Romania. And I would say, well, I don't know what I would say about that.
Be honest.
Oh, well, I would say that, I mean, I felt like a person without a flag, really, somewhere in mid-Atlantic. And after I made The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, I was with Telluride. I was with Sean Penn, who made the movie about what was it called with Emil Hirsch? Into the Wild. And I was sitting there watching Sean's movie, and I thought, he's really an American director. That was a real American movie. And I looked at The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, and I thought, well, that's a French movie. And there was a moment where Jerome Seydoux wanted me to make the movie in English. And I said, well, I can't do that. Don't you think it'd be weird for French people to be speaking English and people reading French subtitles of a movie about a guy who runs a magazine in Paris? I said, no, I don't think it'd be weird at all. I said, well, I can't make that movie. And so we made that movie in French. And but this movie, I think we're in a post-linguistic kind of moment. And what is authenticity? And okay, those kids, it would have been very inauthentic to me for those kids to speak English. And also for the people that were in the bar, in the tambourin, to be speaking English. But when you're a foreigner, you speak your language with your family at home. And in this case, the convention was that Van Gogh and his brother were going to speak English. And then I guess you could see how beautifully Oscar Isaac speaks French. But he doesn't really speak French that beautifully. He did a pretty good job, but French people would have heard that it wasn't that good. And Louis Garrel came over to the house, and we recorded Louis's voice on iPhone, and he did Oscar's voice, and we were able to arrange, EQ it, and do the tenor of his voice to where it sounded like Oscar's voice.
Wow.
And Louis Garrel did an amazing job. He also read Aurier's letter and was Gauguin's voice in the end. And I'm glad that they let the movie play so you could see the yellow come up, because I think that's kind of really the end of the movie. But we didn't want to have too many endings, so we had to wait a little while to give you the yellow.
I loved I really was surprised and loved the tenderness between the brothers. It just came from out of nowhere, and that shot of Willem in the bed looking up at his brother, not wanting him to leave. I felt.
It's interesting when you think that an image could speak volumes, because what they're saying isn't that interesting, but the fact that these two guys are lying in a bed in a suit, and his brother holds him like that. I thought Rupert was really the repository of all of this grief and all of this love. And at a certain moment, he said to me, I think maybe does my character need to have more agency where I could speak about my brother? I said, well, if you just do what I ask you to do, I think it'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And he sure did. I mean, he was really able to be still, and he had so much affection in him towards Willem, and there were some pretty chaotic moments in some of these scenes, and Rupert was able to be very stoic and still, and
still. That's what. That's how I felt too about that. Who was that beast that was in the mental hospital?
Oh, Neil Zarastrup.
He's a beast. He's brilliant. And he just said. Basically told him that he couldn't, that what was this garbage? What was it?
What was he doing? I mean,
he was acting his ass off is what he was doing.
Well, he wasn't acting. He's not acting. He's just crazy as a bug.
Is he?
He's a great actor, though, but he's not. I think he was acting. In fact, I wanted him to say, 'cause some people don't understand what he's saying sometimes. Maybe some people did or didn't, but didn't feel like we needed to put subtitles under what he was saying, because I didn't want anybody to read anything when they were looking at his face, except what was on his face. So Niels, he played in The Diving Bell and the Butterfly also, and he's
what was he in that?
He was a guy who had been locked in a basement and had been kidnapped, and came to see Jean Doe, and Jean Doe was sitting there paralyzed, and he says, "God, why didn't I call this guy when he got out of being after he was kidnapped, and so he was, instead of it being a positive thing, he was just mortified that he had to sit there and look at this guy who he never called. Anyway, I wanted Niels to to play in this scene, and at a certain moment I said to him, "You think you could just tell me the word sergeant again?" And he said, "You know, I am like a leaf that's blowing around in the wind, and I don't know that I could get to that place again and really deliver that line that you're asking me to deliver." And so I said, okay, and then he said it anyway, but we never changed it. And I think that the movie was made like that. I think that Willem was like a leaf blowing around in the wind, and we were like a leaf blowing around in the wind, and there was a lot of wind and weather. And the weather and the landscape were protagonists in the film. We shot the movie in the asylum where
How long did you shoot the film for?
Well, it was 38 days or something like that. But we had 2 weeks where we was not scheduled, and we went down to Arles, and it's not a cozy place. Maybe in the summer, but in February, when Gauguin told him to go down there, it's brutal, and people are not necessarily warm, and they definitely were not nice to Vincent. And so when we went down there, the sunflowers were dead, and it was fantastic. I mean, to see those sunflowers really looked like you were walking through a concentration camp, and those flowers each were people, and to walk through there and really Benoit did an amazing job, and when he went to Scotland, he was wearing Van Gogh's shoes and his pants. He even had his hat in case there was a camera shadow. And when I walk around, I look at the floor all the time, and sometimes you look up, but I thought, it'd be nice to see feet walking up the screen. And so...
tell me about that. You tell him what you share with me about that foot shot.
About walking through the seasons that way? I mean, basically, it starts, and you're walking around with him, but without... it was a way of him walking through...
Who shot it?
Those particular moments at the beginning were shot by Benoit, but at another moment, we gave Willem the camera. So there's moments when Willem is running and he's holding the camera. When Willem is walking home after he's been shot and he walks in front of the Le Cadran, he's shooting his feet, and then he shoots the people that are looking at him with the split diopter. I mean, basically, I walked into a vintage shop, and I bought some sunglasses.
What did you say?
Well, she asked to
What
tell
is
me.
it?
A vintage shop. I mean, an old clothes store. And I bought these sunglasses, and when I walked out, I looked out to the floor, and I realized they were bifocals. So there was a step in the grass, and I thought, wow, that's okay. So I took the glasses and gave it to Benoit and asked him to attach it to his lens. Then the sunglasses were a little small for the lens, so we created a split diopter so we could have a different depth of field, and thought that that could reflect Van Gogh's feeling of or anxiety, or gets more exacerbated, and so and by not attaching it to the lens, we could just move it around a little bit, and it felt more human. But it's very interesting when people say, "Oh, well, what's wrong with the bottom of the screen?" Or "Why did it all of a sudden came black? Did something wrong with the projection?" And to say, no, the movie's supposed to be like that. Just it's okay.
How about your research? I mean, like, did you two things? First, did he have a girlfriend? Did he have a lover?
Well,
and then how did you go about researching? I mean, it's a bit ago. How did you go about your research? And did he have a girlfriend or lover?
Well, he had a girlfriend in Amsterdam. I mean, she. I didn't know her. And I wasn't there, but it's documented that he had a girlfriend who had a child, and he couldn't afford to take care of her because his brother was paying his bills. And so he had relationships basically with people that he paid to have relationships with. So he didn't have a girlfriend. And particularly at this time, between the winter of the beginning of 1888 until the time he died, he definitely didn't have a girlfriend. But he was accused of touching women sometimes in Arles, or being kind of like a town.
Is that sort of like how you began it?
Well,
was he? I didn't know where that was going. I didn't know where that was.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know where that was going.
That'd be an interesting thing for everybody to talk about for a minute. I'm just for us.
Because I can tell you what I thought.
Okay, I'd love to hear what you thought.
I thought that something was going on, and I didn't know where we were going. And when you came back to it, I thought that something was going. Was I wrong?
No, you were right.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the movie, you're lying in the dark, or I lie in the dark in the morning, and I think about things or whatever, and just I would like to be one of them. I'd like to sit down and have a drink and ask them if they like somebody to ask me if I'd like a piece of fruit, or just something, and a woman would smile at me, and anyway, and so in a very literal way, you kind of see what he wants, and then here's a woman standing on the road, but it's not really connected in such a literal way. And I think that there's a big chasm. There's a chasm between art and society. There's a chasm between artists and society. And there's certainly a chasm between, somebody might be very good at one thing and not so good at other things. He was very good at painting, very bad at relating to people. There was a petition to keep him from coming back to Arles. That's a fact. And so, but we invented situations that would serve the story. He didn't paint the roots in 1888, and those kids didn't bother him. That's not exactly what happened, but it was a good way to get him into the Hotel Dieu, set up this thing so then his brother could write a letter to Gauguin to get him to come down there. I wrote the letter to Gauguin, but there were correspondents that were close to that. And then getting Gauguin down there, you can see how important friendship was. And also somebody that he could communicate with.
That's so cool. I don't know, I thought about my friendship with you when I watched the film too, how supportive you've been, and how you're a supporter of the arts, you support artists. And that's what I thought about that with him. And your style, man, I really dig your style. I love the music, and I love your lack of sound. We're in motion, we're hearing things, and all of a sudden we don't hear anything. And then you hit me with some music. It's almost like a cool jazz album. And who did the
Cecil
music?
Taylor.
Who?
No,
Who did the music?
Tatiana Lizovskaya. I think this is the first.
I think she's
first soundtrack that she ever made. But her first instrument is violin, and the first couple of chords in that I made up, and then she and Paul Cantillon did the rest. But all of the piano music she played by herself, and then Louise and I, as we edited the film or saw the film, really heard that in his head.
Now, Louise and you say Louise and you edited the film. How does that? So, Louise, are you the editor of the film?
Yes,
you're the editor of the film. Okay, all right.
What happened was it was unintentional.
Did you hire? Had you edited before, Louise?
She's an architect.
Okay, so how did that work? Julian?
You want to explain it, or shall I? Okay. Well, Jean-Claude Carrier and I started to write the script, and at a certain moment, something happened. We saw a Van Gogh Artaud exhibition at the Musée d'Orsay, and when I was looking at the paintings, I was explaining what I thought, how Van Gogh painted them, and to Jean-Claude, he felt like Van Gogh was talking to him. I didn't know that till a couple months ago. But anyway, I was explaining things about the painting, and then I thought, okay, say there are 15 paintings in the room. You have an experience with each one of these things. At the end, you have an accumulative feeling about everything you saw. So I thought, if the structure of the movie is that, and we have 15 vignettes, and it doesn't have to be an illustration of what's in the painting, but a story that could be a parallel life to whatever that separate image was. So we started thinking or talking about things, for example, discussions about Christ, Shakespeare, Vietnam. At a certain moment, I was seeing a movie, I guess being somebody that actually makes things, three-dimensional things, was seeing the movie a different way than Jean-Claude. I mean, he's 87, I'm 66, she's 33. She's from Sweden, I'm from Brooklyn, he's from Colombier. And we all had a feeling about Van Gogh and saw it in a different way. So at a certain moment, Louise started to organize the vignettes into a place where this narrative was coming that was closer to how I was seeing the film. Mm-hmm. And then when we went down to Arles, if you see the script, you'll see it says that, and we've been kind of rewrote it, but it would say, he walks in nature. Well, I mean, we had a scene that was 18 minutes long of him walking in nature. There were large moments of the film where there's no talking. And then there's some where there's a lot of talking. And so we thought, and I think that she saw the movie visually. Mm-hmm. Head, portraits, horizontality, landscape. And I guess also, so we started to respond to these 7-hour days, and also to literally to the physical arduousness of the landscape. And for example,
you started the film without an editor, knowing. So did you know she was going to edit prior to?
No.
On the journey?
No. What happened? No, not at all. What happened was Juliette Welfling, who edited The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, was supposed to do this. But she was working on Jacques Audiard's movie and wasn't going to be free till April. And I loved Juliette and trust her and thought we'd wait. And we got done shooting on December 10th. But the thing is that...
Don't you hate that when that happens?
It doesn't happen to me all the time because I don't make movies all the time, but I bet you hate that.
Yeah, I hate it when it happens.
So Louise learned the Avid program in 2 days because she basically does all of these buildings and does all the spatial work, SketchUp and different things, and has curated different exhibitions. And in fact, there's an exhibition at the Musée d'Orsay where she built the walls. And so I think thinking spatially has a lot to do with editing and also inventing things. I don't think there was one set that we did, but we didn't change everything around. So someone asked her the other day, were you editing on the set? She wasn't editing, but recorded everything, knew where all the skeletons were buried. And on December 10th, we just started editing the movie. And it was on the laptop, so we went and edited in Mexico, airplane, wherever. And by the time April rolled around, we were so far.
Wait, how long is that? So you got
December 10th to April 10th. What is that? December, March? What is it? 4 or 5 months.
That's good.
We were so far gone that when Juliette looked at the material, and
you saved some money.
Well, we paid her anyway. Instead of breathing on her neck, we let her work on it for a while, but she was going to take out everything that characterized it as what it was. And you've got to all fight for whatever that thing is. I mean, there are a lot of battles to fight when you're making movies, but we really preserved what we thought was the film, and so we just were inseparable and basically went through that whole process, and she used the editor, and I mean, we edited together.
It's great. None of your films are alike, and yet they still have the same heartbeat. You know, I can never. They have the same heartbeat, but just they're none of them feel the same. What were you going for? Like when you With this one, what were you going for?
I wanted somebody to have the feel. I didn't want it to be about Van Gogh. I wanted you to feel like you were him. I wanted to put everyone in and have the experience.
That's how I felt. I felt like I was criticized, and I felt like, anything that you read, if you read a review, the one thing what you cling to, what I cling to, is the negative as opposed to the positive. I felt for him as an artist.
Well, he didn't really have much.
People were telling me that you start the movie with they're taking the paintings down from the wall. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's a bit predictable. And that's why we put the girl at the beginning to say, hey, this is not going to be a regular biopic. We're going to have something really fucked up thing out in nature that will be the poetry of this guy's life. And it was a bit too rote. The fact is that he actually did those, and you asked about the research. Those are the paintings that were in, more or less, those were the paintings that were in the cafeteria. So I guess I knew a lot of art historians and people that have curated and authenticated Van Gogh's work. So we knew which pictures were in the cafeteria, which pictures were painted in the asylum, which pictures would have been at his brother's house. So, for example, the Roots were painted in 1889, not in 1888, but it was good to paint the Roots to have that scene. I mean, Van Gogh has never seen a Velázquez painting or a Goya painting because Goya paintings weren't at the Louvre at that time. He did see Delacroix, Veronese, Franz Hals, but I thought it was more interesting to show that if you look at a Goya painting and a Velázquez painting up close, you see a bunch of abstract marks. And that's what you see when you see a Van Gogh painting. And his work is more in concert with those guys than, say, Millet or Gustave Doré, somebody that he might have liked. So I took the liberty to pick what I wanted. I mean, I even had Caravaggio in there, but who I think is my favorite. But he did, and it just so happened, they let us shoot in the Louvre, and
How do you mean it just so happened?
Well, I'm a painter.
What do you mean just so happened?
I guess, they know my work. And,
do you think they would have let me shoot in the Louvre?
Probably if you would have paid them. Yeah.
No, I doubt it.
But they were very nice. And anyway, so we're shooting.
You get a pass.
We're shooting in the room where the Delacroix paintings are. And you see Garicot, the rafters in there also. But in the next room is The Marriage at Cana by Veronese, which is the painting that Napoleon stole from the Cini Foundation in Venice. Anyway, we were able to just walk in there, so Willem gets to walk up to the painting. And in the real life, supposedly, Van Gogh wrote, because he didn't think he liked Veronese, and he was painting the potato eaters around that time, which was kind of a gray and brown and black painting. But when he saw The Marriage at Cana, he wrote, "The colors in my painting don't come from reality; they come from my palette."
Wow. I was in your house recently, and I got to tell you, I wanted to take it out of there. The portrait of Willem, and then there's a portrait of Willem, and then there's another portrait of Willem. Tell me. Because I would have taken anyone. One is going to go for some money, I know. But then one isn't going to go for some money. One was a prop. And I said, if it's a prop, then give it to me.
I already gave it to Willem.
You gave it to Willem?
Yeah, I did. So
who gets the money?
Well, I hope I get some someday. Anyway.
Here he goes, man.
Okay, so what happened is Van Gogh, and one of the things we found out in making the movie is how he worked. And I don't know if anybody knows this in the room. Probably raise your hand if you know. Do you know that the flower paintings, the paintings of sunflowers, he didn't paint all of them from life. There are 15 sunflowers in a painting, and there are 15 sunflowers in another painting. In another one, there might be 12 sunflowers. So what I'm saying is he would make paintings of his own paintings. Say he couldn't go out that day or whatever, he wanted to paint. He would make paintings. So he was kind of like Andy Warhol in that sense because he was sort of the first postmodern painter. So that being said, if Willem was going to be Van Gogh, I needed to make the painting that he painted of himself look like Willem,
Gotcha.
since he's in the movie. So I painted Willem as Van Gogh, and that's what's on the wall in the asylum. After I got home, I painted a painting of the painting. So I made a plate painting of the painting of Willem as Van Gogh.
Which I was going to steal.
And that's what he saw at the studio.
You said this was going to be your last movie, and I don't believe you, and I hope to not. No. Why
Well,
make
I
a
have to
stupid
really
remark
change.
like that?
I have to really change gears to do that. I mean, everybody here probably. I mean, if that's what you do that. That's your way of mediating the world. I do that by painting, and I really didn't want to do this, but I think I don't know if it was my mother that was had an impulse to educate people, or maybe she did that to me. I don't know what it was, but I felt like he was mistreated during his life. I think he's been mistreated historically with all of these silly myths, and I think he's been mistreated in films that we've seen by directors that we all respect, who don't know anything about. I mean, Robert Altman was a great director. He didn't know a goddamn thing about, I was going to say Willem Dafoe, about Vincent van Gogh. I mean, it was a beautiful thing. I mean, Sean always loved the thing about the brothers in that movie. But the first thing that happens in that movie, he talks about a painting being sold for $36 million or whatever. Who gives a shit? I mean, that's not what it's about. And so, I mean, Maurice Piala's movie, I don't know if anybody likes that movie, but it was abysmal in my opinion. French people like it. But I mean, it could have been about anybody. I mean...
You didn't answer my question, Julian.
What was
the question wasn't. It's my final question to you.
No,
I hope this is not your. Was that just some bullshit you was saying?
No. Because I really have to change gears to do that, and this was something that was very, very close to my me trying to understand what it's like to be alive. And I think I said what I wanted to say when he says, "When I'm painting, I stop thinking." I like to do that. I like to stop thinking, and I guess, and when I'm painting, I do stop thinking. And maybe when we're making a movie, we stop thinking also at the moment when we can stop thinking, when we can just let something happen. And I think that what you can see in the movie is how we really depend on, I mean, what Willem did, how he could access that place and do what he did, how Oscar, Mads Mikkelsen, I mean, these people... who knows where it comes from? I mean, Maz is a dancer. I mean, Chris Walken is a great friend of mine. I mean, the guy could read the fucking telephone book and it's interesting. But they can do something that I can't do. And when I was the painter, a long time ago, and I had comments about movies, nobody listened to me. But being the director, the actors listened to you. So... I started to, I mean, and the thing about Jean-Michel Basquiat, I think I probably did it for the same reason, because I hated Robert Hughes saying that you're the Eddie Murphy of the art world and all of this abuse that he took. Really, and I thought, okay, I owe it to Jean-Michel to give him the respect.
Well, on that note, I respect you very much, and I'm really happy that you brought this into the world. Thank you very much, Mr. Schnabel.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee.
And thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll have a lot more for you in the coming weeks as awards season approaches, including Q&As from Alfonso Cuarón, David Mackenzie, and Steve McQueen. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you're enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to rate and review us on iTunes. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow cinephiles find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.